time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does, and good to have you with us on this Friday edition of the show. We got a lot to do today. Tino Pattigno stops by because it's a NASCAR Friday, of course. Andrew Petcash, founder of Profluence, will make his first appearance on the show. Former college basketball player in his own right at BU. Get some thoughts with him. He was actually a captain at BU. Get some thoughts with him on the NFL losing this antitrust case and what it could mean for Sunday Ticket, what it could mean for the viewing of NFL games going forward. A lot of consequences there. Baseball, there are some stories to get to as well. Yankees free fall continues. Phillies dealing with some injuries now, coming out of a loss last night to the Marlins. But we start things out in the NBA, and we bring in Sam Yarnell to talk about that. Sam, welcome back to your studio. It's good to see that you're safely ensconced in your studio. Yeah, I see it. But I want to get your thoughts, as I have plenty, as Bronny James was drafted yesterday. And look, not a huge surprise here. He goes 55th to the Lakers. It was sort of what led up to that, though, throughout the day that was most interesting to me. You had Bob Myers on the set of ESPN basically saying, look, Rich Paul is telling teams if you draft Bronny and you're not the Lakers, he's going to hop on a plane and go to Australia and play there. And look, I can come at this from both sides, Sam. I can look at this a couple of different ways. One, it's a late second round pick. It's a late day 2 draft pick in the NBA. So you're talking borderline guys that may or may not make it in the league. Have there been some great players drafted there? Sure. And some diamonds in the rough that you're going to find. You're trying to keep LeBron James, obviously, if you're the Lakers, and try and make one more run with this group of him and Anthony Davis and pair him with a J.J. Redick and see what you can do. I don't have a problem with that. But I'm not going to lie. I wish one team, one owner would have stood up and said, you know what? I'm calling your bluff. I'm drafting him. What are you going to do about it? Because everybody's like, well, Rich Paul has other clients, and that may have made it difficult for them to get those players. Rich Paul's not going to cut his nose to spite his face. That would have all blown over eventually. I wish one team would have stood up and said, hey, man, this is a business. This is a business. If you're a team, if you're a struggling franchise, this is a business. Your responsibility isn't to make sure LeBron James gets to live out his dream of playing with his son. Your job is to do the best thing for your team. If the best thing for your team was drafting Bronny James and holding him hostage over the Lakers as an organization, yeah, there'd be some blowback. But you know what? You might have gotten something. You might have gotten Austin Reeves. You might have been able to figure out something that you could get or extract from the Lakers. So I wish somebody would have called their bluff on it. That said, it's going to be really wild to see LeBron James playing with his son.
I actually agree with you 100%, Jason. I thought there would be an NBA GM that would, call the so to speak bluff, but it speaks so much to the players really running that league. It's something that I talk about on the show so frequently. The players run the NBA, and it's not really close. The owners have no power. The general managers have no power. All the power in the NBA rests in the owners and their agents' hands, and that was on full display last night. I think there's a wild dichotomy here between the Lakers' pursuit of J.J. Redick as their head coach and their pursuit of Bronny James as the 55th overall pick. When we're talking about tampering, the Lakers went to the ends of the earth to make sure that no one could make any sort of case for them to be tampering with J.J. Redick. I mean, we saw the whole Dan Hurley fallout. We heard about Anthony Davis wanting a different coach. But at the end of the day, it was LeGM's podcast partner who ends up being their head coach, as we all knew it would be. But with Bronny James, we're just somehow going to act like he and LeBron don't have the same agent, and then on draft night, his agent goes out and does this. If the Lakers aren't severely punished, and Rich Paul severely punished for what he did last night and what they've done throughout this entire draft process, there needs to be a serious awakening with regard to us fans around the NBA, because this cannot continue. We cannot keep letting these players run this league.
Yeah, well, it's a players' league. And I think it will continue. Yeah, they might get a slap on the wrist. They might lose some, second round pick or something.
They'll lose
like
a
that.
second round pick in 2027, and everyone will forget.
And everybody will forget. Absolutely. Now the question becomes, what kind of a contributor is Bronny James? Do we see him get, meaningful minutes next year with the Los Angeles Lakers? I see some people putting up these fantasy starting fives that have Bronny James at. There's no way Bronny James is starting for the... Now, if that's the case, then the Lakers have a real serious problem, because obviously this is a guy who barely played at the collegiate level. This is a guy who obviously, because of the heart issues that he had, and thankfully that has all been rectified from last July, this isn't a guy that's going to be out there... playing huge minutes from the start, but I think they're hoping they can develop him. I think the Lakers, better than just about any team, maybe other than the Knicks as well, because the Knicks G League team is basically right next door to where the Knicks play in Westchester. The Lakers have their G League team in the same building, same practice facility as them. So you've got an opportunity for Bronny to get meaningful time, playing for their G League team, and sort of building him up and giving him the confidence to play at the NBA level with LeBron. I mean, it's as much as we want to sit here and go off on the different details of how we got here. This is going to be pretty cool. When all is said and done, it's going to be pretty wild to watch LeBron at a still viable NBA age playing with his son. We're not talking like Ken Griffey Sr. at the very end of his career, who could get lucky and knock one out of the park. We're talking LeBron, who is still a top 10 player, basically, being able to play with his son. It's going to be amazing.
And it was really cool last night, I will say, to see all these photos of, LeBron winning the Eastern Conference Finals and holding Bronny in his arms, and now they're teammates. And it was really cool to see all of the pictures from when Bronny was a kid and LeBron was young in the league to now, obviously. But yeah, Jason, he's gonna have to get comfortable in El Segundo with the South Bay Lakers.
Yep.
The reality of the situation is this: Bronny is going to be the last guy on the bench when a few guys on the team are injured.
Very true. We'll come back with Andrew Petcash. NFL loses a major lawsuit. We'll get to it next.
Over 13 million Americans were affected by identity theft in 2022, and the threats go way beyond just credit card fraud. Today's identity thieves can use your information in ways that are easy to miss by just monitoring accounts and credit, like opening loans, transferring home titles, even committing crimes.
Someone got my social security number, made a driver's license, and it was used for criminal activity.
You can do so much with a social security number that I didn't know could happen. They drained my bank account. It was terrifying.
You're even more vulnerable than you realize. Your information is exposed through online shopping, banking, even corporate data breaches. No wonder there's a new victim of identity theft every 3 seconds. Only LifeLock alerts you to the widest volume of threats all in one place, like someone trying to use your social security number, open a new loan in your name, or even commit a crime in your name.
There was a big yes button and there was a big no button. I clicked, "That's not me," and LifeLock took it from there.
If you become a victim of identity theft, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will be assigned to your case and work to fix the issue on your behalf.
If something happens, you have somebody fighting for you.
All LifeLock members are backed by the LifeLock $1 Million Protection Package, including reimbursement for stolen funds, personal expenses, and coverage for lawyers and experts up to $1 million. It can be dangerously easy to steal your identity. With LifeLock, it's easy to help protect yourself.
I will be with LifeLock forever.
Join the millions of people already protected by LifeLock. And for a limited time, save 25% on your first year with promo code 25TV. All plans include a 60-day money-back guarantee.
Call 800-710-7531.
Or visit lifelock.com/25TV to save 25% on your first year of identity theft protection. Enroll now.
Attention families with a loved one in a nursing home. If your loved one has suffered from bed sores, falls, broken bones, dehydration, or even death, you may be entitled to a substantial settlement. If you have a loved one who is injured in a nursing home, we will find out what happened. State violations are found against nursing homes every day. You have a limited time to file your claim, so don't wait. Call 800-398-5999 and speak with one of our attorneys. The call is confidential and free.
Sports Wrap rolls on. Good to have you with us on this Friday. If it had not been for Bronny James, I suspect this might have been our lead story today on the show. The NFL got squashed in court on Thursday. Antitrust suit, just under $5 billion. And because of the way antitrust suits work, it could be as much as almost $15 billion that it ultimately winds up costing them for this DirecTV or this Sunday Ticket case, this antitrust suit that's been out there. And there were only a couple of people I would have thought of bringing on the show to talk about this, and I was able to get one of them, and I'm thrilled about it. Andrew Petcash is the founder of Profluence, joins us on the program today. And Andrew does a great job. I read all of his stuff on LinkedIn, and he's somebody I love to follow. He's a great follow because he's great at breaking down sports, media, the money involved, where all those things sort of join together. So Andrew Petcash joins us on the show. And Andrew, put it into dummy terms for somebody like me. What does this defeat for the NFL in court ultimately mean, assuming it stands upon appeal, which I'm sure the NFL will do?
Yeah. And Jason, first, appreciate the kind words and having me on. But ultimately, this is a big case that impacts more than just the NFL. This impacts potentially the valuations of a lot of teams across the entire globe. Right now, sports valuations, as we all know, are skyrocketing. We're having a ton of private equity firms and groups come in and buy these minority stakes. Well, NFL is one of the few leagues that has no private equity money yet. When were they slated to start taking private equity money? The fall. Well, now every team is potentially paying $450 million because it'll bake out across all the teams. That's how they'll pay this. And so the teams get squashed, which probably will diminish some of the valuations, which may then avoid some of these private equity groups getting stakes because the teams might not want to sell at lower valuations. And then it sort of puts a real damper on this model of, and we saw it last year, right? Just one game on Peacock, right? And so it was going more this route, and now it sort of creates, where does it go next?
Who ultimately takes the hit for this? Because look, the owners love Roger Goodell. They keep giving him deals. I mean, they keep giving him new contracts. So who ultimately takes the hit for this? Goodell testified in this case. According to all reports, he was very confident. There was a lot of swagger. I think a lot of people thought the NFL was gonna get through this. Who ultimately winds up taking the hit for this? I don't want to say taking the fall because they're going to fire Roger Goodell. He's their cash cow. But who ultimately takes the fall for this?
I would say the teams at their core, as we just mentioned, a lot of money, $450 million per team going out, which could be much more if it does rise up to $15 billion, which you mentioned. I would say also the fans. Like, the fans get hurt by this as well because now the NFL might try to do other stuff. They might try to make up money quicker. They might put more games behind a paywall to, make up for these downfalls. So ultimately, hey, some people get some money back. Okay, maybe it prevents the NFL from doing some things they shouldn't have been doing in the future. But, someone that's going through a little struggle, they're going to find other ways to make money. So it could be all of us are getting hurt.
But does it ultimately change the model by which the NFL is going to have to allow for fans to watch games. Because there are a lot of people that would argue, why do I want to go and pay $450 potentially for Sunday ticket just to watch my one team play out-of-market games, even if it's two teams? Why can't we have a model where you pay just to watch your team play out-of-market game? It seems like it's something that should be able to be done. Is that one of the branches that sort of comes off of this case and the way it's broken down?
The way it's looking where it's looking to be headed is we're going to be paying for a million different things or one expensive package. So it's like what cable used to be. You pay for cable, you're getting a little bit of everything. Now we have all these different options. And so you're either going to have to pay for all of them at different times or trials or whatever, and it's still going to equal that same cost. So we went full cycle from cable to fragmentation, consolidated right back up to a different looking version of cable, which is a million different streaming services. And NFL, I mean, it's one of the most watched, right? I think last year of the top 100 live broadcasts, NFL was, I don't know the exact number, but I want to say it was 90 plus of 100, like something. I know sports was 90 plus 100. NFL was a lot of those. And so we'll see what ultimately happens, but everyone's gonna pay and be paying a little bit more to watch your own team play or just other teams.
Yeah, I just wonder if it ultimately changes the model, the Sunday ticket model in general. While I have you, you're a former college basketball player, and we were just talking about this to start the show, the Bronny James stuff. You played at BU. I think you were a captain of the BU basketball team. And you're not far removed from your playing days, so I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, what did you think, and from a business standpoint, the Lakers sort of handling this the way they did, bringing in Bronny James with the 55th pick, Rich Paul playing hardball, basically saying, hey, you draft our guy, he's going to go play in Australia unless the team drafting him is the Lakers. What did you make of the way this all played out?
Yeah, I mean, Bronny James, I mean, that scenario is wild. It sort of shows you just the entertainment value of sports, right? It's all about entertainment, not always who the best player is, especially once you get to the pros. And what's really interesting about the whole thing is now they're the most high-scoring father-son duo in history. LeBron James and his son Bronny, obviously LeBron having all those points. But anyway, it's interesting. And as a former player, think there's some player out there that probably deserved it more. And, it sucks, but it's an entertainment business. It's a big business of sports. So, I just view it as it's good for media, and eyeballs at the end of the day are everything, the storylines. And so it was going to happen, whatever we wanted. It didn't matter. That was going to happen.
I just wish one team said, we're calling your bluff. Again, because from a business standpoint, your job as an owner or GM is to do what's best for your team. And if what's best for your team was drafting Bronny James and trying to extract something from the Lakers in the process, I would have done it.
It would have been pretty funny, yeah, if we saw someone
Miami, Pat Riley in Miami, something like that. Andrew Petcash is the founder of Profluence. Go and check him out there. Always love reading your stuff on LinkedIn. I'm glad we were able to get you on. Let's do it again soon, all right?
Let's do it. Appreciate it, Jason.
We're coming back. A lot more to do on the show. Don't go anywhere. Rolling along on this Friday edition of the show. Let's do some baseball before we get to Tino Pattigno in 10 minutes to break down NASCAR. Big race this week in Nashville before they take it to the streets in Chicago. Sammy Arnell rejoins us. Boy, Sam, it's hard to imagine a team being as good as the New York Yankees were for as long and as large a sample size as they were, to being a team now that's lost 10 times in their last 13 games and looking, just absolutely lost. A starting pitching rotation that had been knocking it out of the park, so to speak, mixing metaphors here. But I mean, you had a rotation that was playing great. Everything seemed to be clicking to a team that just looks lost right now. I mean, they got clobbered by a bad Blue Jays team on Thursday night. And I mean, look, maybe it's just the ebb and flow of the Major League Baseball season. It's just the ups and downs. But one, the team has not played well against good teams this year. The Blue Jays aren't even that. True. So we'll see what happens over the next few days in this 4-game series. But they have not played well against the better teams and the upper echelon teams in the league. I don't know. I mean, I'm at a loss for words, and that is rare.
All right. Okay. I know I did this yesterday on the show. I can't believe I have to do this 2 days in a row on the show.
Talk me off the ledge.
Actually hurts my soul. Dude, pump the brakes. And like all this, as much as I understand it, because they're out of a playoff spot and they will be sellers at the deadline, all this Blue Jays slander, we got to stop. There's 6 games under 500. Like, this is very much a Blue Jays team that 2 good weeks and they're in the playoffs. Okay, now that that's off my chest, yes, Jason, I swear, man, you can't lose without winning, because the only thing that this has taught us about the Yankees, their struggles, we'll just say, the last 10 games, they're 2-8. They're on a 4-game losing streak as of Friday morning, right? And it speaks so much to Giancarlo Stanton might actually be a Hall of Famer. Like, oh my God, he mattered so much to that lineup. And clearly they cannot produce, like Jason said. They're a loss without it, because now defenses can just walk Soto and Judge, and Verdugo can't produce behind them. They're struggling with Rice coming up. I mean, it has been a struggle for the New York Yankees, but all accounts to me point to it's Giancarlo Stanton being hurt. And like, if he can get back, or they can acquire some good 5-hitter at the deadline, like a Vlad Guerrero Jr., they'll be just fine. We got to stop freaking out about the Yankees. And I really hate to say that, because I'm the number one guy who wants to freak out about the Yankees, but I'm actually so not concerned for them right now.
Here's what I'm going to say. And what's troubling to me is Aaron Judge right now is in one of those grooves where he should be able to carry a team. And for him to be playing as well as he is, and them for them to still be 3-10 in the last 13, it feels like you're wasting some of his best moments of this season. Because at some point, he started off slow. At some point, unless he's just going to go Barry Bonds and have this insane season where he hits, 60 home runs and drives in 150, because that's what he's on a pace to do right now. Unless you're talking about that kind of season, there's going to be an Aaron Judge slump. And it feels like you're wasting this time where you could be carrying the team, where Aaron Judge really should be carrying the team because of how well he's playing. That's one of the things I'm concerned about. Talk about the Phillies, because they have obviously been the juggernaut in the National League. Bryce Harper, you saw him pull up lame on the final play of the game against the Marlins last night. They're talking about hamstring. That could be anything from 2 weeks to a month. Look, the Stanton injury is a hamstring, and that's going to be a month, and that's on the mild side. Schwarber was hurt in that game as well. So now the Phillies looking at some potential adversity in a year where through the first 80 games, they really haven't had to deal with much of it.
And they won't, because they're going to cruise to the NL East Championship, because the Braves don't have their 2 best players, and Marcelo Ozuna, who was contending for a Triple Crown a week ago, has fallen off the face of the planet. It's better for this to happen to the Phillies now than it would be for this to happen to them in a month, right? And Schwarber, in his defense, Schwarber personally has a long history of tearing it up in the month of June, which he did, and then getting injured at the end and not being healthy again until about August. It's kind of like the Kyle Schwarber experience. And you know what? Philly should take that. Like, it'll be completely fine. They'll still contend for home field advantage in the playoffs. The Dodgers have been slipping as well, and obviously haven't been performing exactly as well as we thought they would coming into the season. I'm not concerned for the Phillies. They have shown us that they have depth in every facet. They've got depth in that rotation. They've got depth in the bullpen and all around the field. I mean, this is still a team with a very good minor league system. I'm not worried about the Phillies right now. I think they'll be just fine, and they're not going to have any competition in the NL East.
Yeah, here's the thing. There's 7 on the loss side ahead of the Braves. 7. And you got to think the Braves are going to do something to sort of, improve that team, obviously, with the loss of Acuna Jr. and the expectations that sort of came in.
No Strider, no Acuna. If I'm the Braves, I'm mailing it in this year. Like the Phillies.
I don't think so.
Because here's the thing with the Braves, right? And I understand that the baseball postseason is different than any other sport. But Jason, the Braves have got to understand that right now you're what? The third at best team in the National League, and it's really probably more like the fifth.
Hey, here you go. White Sox say, hey, we're selling everybody. Lewis Roberts available. You're telling me you're the Braves, you're not going and getting him?
I'm not giving up what it's going to take because the White Sox are going to want.
No, they're going to want a haul, and they should get one. Prospects. Yeah, they should want one.
I don't give that up if I'm the Braves.
I can tell you, what tells me that division isn't over, Braves are priced at $240 to win the NL East right now.
What are the Phillies?
Phillies minus 290. You wouldn't lay it. You wouldn't lay it. I know you. Let me tell you, if there's anybody that doesn't like the juice, I don't know anybody that doesn't like the juice as much as you. There's no way you're laying 290.
Hey, we cashed live on a Connor McDavid minus 350 to win the Stanley Cup. You'll never be able to say that again.
Phillies minus 290, Braves plus 240, and the Mets plus 8,000. There you go.
What about the Nats?
Plus 50,000. Tino Pattigno is coming up. Tino has a better chance to win the AL East than the Nationals do. We're coming back. Don't go anywhere. Continuing with this Friday edition of the program, lots more to get to. Got to talk some NASCAR, though, man. Let's bring in my man. Tino Pattigno is here, ladies and gentlemen. Show everybody your Frankenfinger. Come on, I want to see your Frankenfinger. He broke a finger on Wednesday, but he's a gamer. He's still here. He plays hurt. Hangs out with us. Yeah, absolutely. You wouldn't miss this for anything. Hangs out with us on the show. All right. Talk to me about New Hampshire. Christopher Bell, your winner there. What did we miss?
Well, I mean, that was to be expected. Christopher Bell has been dominating at that track ever since he came into not only the Cup Series, but in the Xfinity Series, the lower level there, maybe like the AAA, you could kind of call it to relate it to baseball. He has 100% win rate at that track. He's 4 for 4, and he actually raced there on Saturday before the race last weekend on Sunday and won it as well. He goes into Sunday, and he was looking like the car to beat for the most part until the rain came. And I was actually at that track while it was raining, had to leave, had to evacuate, thunderstorm warning, the whole big thing. And now, Jason, I was also at the Coca-Cola 600 when it was raining, and Christopher Bell won that race as well. So I think he has me to thank because 2 races for Tino, 2 wins for Christopher Bell, and 2 rain delays as well. So the rain and Christopher Bell just love me, I guess.
I guess so. And Christopher Bell, your winner. Talk about his season as a whole.
Well, he's been one of those guys that is a sneaky type of performer, right? Like, he's one of the people that he's always going to be in contention for a race win, but at times he goes on streaks, and other times I think there's certain tracks that favor him less than what we've seen. Right now he's on a hot streak. I think it'll cool off a little bit with some of the tracks we do have coming up, although for the Chicago street race, he was leading laps there earlier on in that first inaugural race last season. So to me, I think Christopher Bell's the type of driver where you can never count him out. I mean, he's been in the championship and he's been racing for a championship, and he's got 3 wins now. So when they have 3 wins at this point in the season, basically halfway, he's going to be a true threat to win the championship, especially because he won at Phoenix earlier this season as well.
Give me some sense looking at the Ally 400 in Nashville this week. Tell me a little bit about this track. Obviously, I don't know a lot about it. Give me a sense for what we're looking at here in Nashville.
Definitely. So it's a 1.3 mile long racetrack. It's intermediate in that sense. It's going to be 300 laps, 400 miles for the Ally 400 there. Another thing I want to note too is it's concrete. So it races a little bit similarly to tire wear issues like we could see at Dover. That's another concrete track. Bristol as well. But it's 1.3 miles long, so it's going to be high speeds. You can go 3 to 4 wide in the corners, and I think this is going to be a really good race because we've seen an intermediate style track so far this season. Some great racing action, and this is one where the Chevys have dominated. We've raced there 3 times thus far, and Chevys have won every single race.
Wow. Christopher Bell again. What do you think of? We haven't had a lot of repeat winners this year.
We haven't had any yet. So drivers have won multiple races, but we have yet to see it back to back.
I mean, back to back. That's
there.
what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right. And I think, Christopher Bell, he finished 7th in this race last year. And, with the Toyotas, I do think they are going to bring speed. I do see them maybe beating out a Chevy in this one. But if they're going to beat them out, you're going to have to beat out a Chase Elliott. You're going to have to beat out a Kyle Larson. You're going to have to pass a Ross Chastain, who's one of the hardest drivers, as he won this race last year. He's one of the hardest drivers to pass that one car. But I can really see Martin Truex Jr. in this one. I know I talk about him, it seems like every week. He's retiring, but the reason is he was one of the drivers that was leading almost the whole second stage in this race last season. Came down to 50 laps to go, and he just got passed for the lead, and ultimately that was the end of the race. So I can see Truex being another performer in this one as he finished 2nd in this race last year.
Give me a thought on Denny Hamlin. I mean, you want to talk about outside the top 20 his last 3 races, yet I look at the odds for this week's race. He's plus 550 as the second best odds over on FanDuel behind Kyle Larson at 500. What gives?
Well, 11 team's been struggling a little bit. Last week, they had the rebound that they were looking for at New Hampshire. The only problem is they didn't get the finish they necessarily deserved. He was running within the top 4 the entire day. All the drivers I talked about last week, whether it was Truex, Logano, Bell, Hamlin, they were running 1, 2, 3, 4. So we were locked in from that standpoint, and so was the 11 team, except when the rain came, they had to switch to wet weather tires. And honestly, Jason, Denny just did not perform well on them. The track was a little bit slick. It was good to see them racing in the wetter conditions there on the racetrack, but Christopher Bell was able to get more power going into and more speed going into corner entry and coming out of corner exit as well. And Denny Hamlin just broke and started braking way too early, hindering his speed and making him drop positions drastically. He was in 2nd place the time NASCAR restarted the race after the rain delay and finished back half of the back 20. He fell all the way back. So I look for him to get back on track here at Nashville. He's definitely a threat to win this race. Top 5 for sure. We're looking at odds wise, like you mentioned, plus 550 for top 3, plus 160 for Denny Hamlin. I don't hate that because I think he'll consistently get a little bit better as these summer months continue on.
All right, pick me a winner.
Pick you a winner, it's going to be Martin Truex Jr. I have to stay on the MTJ train. I think he is even more due than Denny Hamlin is, especially at Nashville, a track where, although it has been Chevy dominated, I can see Truex beating out a Kyle Larson and a Chase Elliott, who will also be threats to win. I have to do note, Tyler Reddick as well. 11-1 right now. He is a great value play early on in this week. He can go out, probably win the poll, at least start top 3, and that number will be cut in half. So keep an eye out for Tyler Reddick and Martin Truex Jr. from the Toyota side.
As high as 13 right now over on FanDuel as well for Tyler Reddick. How about Bubba Wallace? Talk about guys that need to do something to get into the playoffs. I only got a few seconds here, but Bubba Wallace has got to do something.
He needs to put together consistent finishes inside the top 10. Joey Logano was able to jump him last week in terms of the point standings, and it was crazy because Bubba was having a better race. Joey crashed out, and then Bubba got into a late race accident. So he's been performing well, but he needs to get the finishes that he deserves.
Tino Pattigno, ladies and gentlemen. Tino, we'll see you next week, my friend.
Yes, sir. Let's rock on in Nashville.
Let's continue on this Friday edition of the show. Odds and ends right around the corner as we try to bring it back to like level 5 after going like level 15 with Tino Pattigno, our NASCAR betting insider, SiriusXM NASCAR radio contributor. Going as fast as the cars he likes to watch on the weekends. Let's bring in Sam Yarnell, who, by the way, is responsible for for Tino Pattigno being on this show. So if you love Tino, send me your flowers. If you hate Tino, you see Sam's X name there. So you're good to go.
I'm trying to do the math on that. Even if you carry the like, it still doesn't add up, Jason. I think I deserve credit whether you like him or don't.
Fair enough. So all right, let's get into the soccer here, because if not for Bronny James, and if not for what transpired with the NFL and this antitrust suit that they've lost, that I think is really going to have some big impact on the way the NFL does business, as Andrew Petcash from Profluence was explaining. This would have been the top story. The United States losing to Panama at Copa America after Timothy Weah gets a red card early in this match. The U.S. still took a 1-0 lead after that. 1-0. 1-0. Took a 1-0 lead in this match. And then they give up 2 goals. Panama takes a 2-1 lead. Panama gets a red card of their own. U.S. can't get the equalizer. They fall 2-1. Now they're going to need some help to get out of this stage, this group stage, on top of obviously winning their next match against Paraguay. I think it's Paraguay. Uruguay. It was one of the Guays. So it's Uruguay. Okay, there you go. So, Sam, give me some thoughts on what transpired here at Copa America, and a devastating loss for the United States.
Yeah, Jason, this has got to be the end for Greg Berhalter. And quite frankly, if he'll play in this game, as we just alluded to, against Uruguay, right? But right now it's between the U.S. and Panama. They're tied on points. The U.S. is ahead of them on goal differential. So the U.S. essentially needs to either draw Uruguay, which have been the best side in the tournament, most people have said, even better than other of those South American sides, even better than Argentina. They're going to have to beat Uruguay, and then Panama will have to they will have to draw Uruguay, and Panama will have to either draw Bolivia or beat Bolivia by only 1 goal. Actually, no. Now I'm thinking about the technicalities of it, Jason. Even if Panama beats Bolivia by a goal, they'll surpass the U.S. So the U.S. has to win, essentially, against Uruguay for Greg Berhalter to keep his job. There's no chance that happens. There's no chance either of those things happen. The U.S. is going to get grouped in the Copa America, which is almost as bad as not making the World Cup. You're talking about a U.S. side at this point that in the past month, yes, that's right, the past calendar month, has this 2-1 loss to Panama and a 5-1 loss to Colombia, both on American soil. There's no chance that Greg Berhalter can keep his job. The problem therein lies that the U.S. Soccer Federation has this interesting tendency of firing Greg Berhalter and then establishing a committee to try and replace him, which only results in Greg Berhalter getting rehired. And quite frankly, I have no faith in anything besides that happening with this. There has to be fundamental changes at the top, because right now U.S. Soccer, Jason, is in a horrible place.
I can't add anything more to that, because I think everything you said is 100% spot on. And, we've got the World Cup right around the corner in this country, and this is the state of U.S. soccer. So I can't add anything more. I think you're spot on. I really do.
I saw an interesting tweet yesterday, just that kind of spoke to the talent, and I don't have it in front of me, so I'm not going to get the names right. But if you go back and you look at the team that Jurgen Klinsmann took to the semifinal of this tournament, and then compare it to the starting 11 from yesterday that lost to Panama, you should look at that, and that should be all you need to know that Greg Berhalter is not worthy of this job anymore.
Christy Sides is the head coach of the Indiana Fever, and she is caught up to me in terms of her basketball analysis, because after Indiana lost to Chicago, and I criticized the fact that, Caitlin Clark took like no shots in the final 6 minutes of that game. And I said she needs to obviously shoot more and be less selfish. Well, now Christy Sides is caught up with that thinking. Indiana got stomped by the Seattle Storm in Seattle last night. Seattle's actually playing really well. I think they've won like their last 6 at home. And they're in the midst of a 9-game homestand right now because of some weird scheduling quirk. It's like baseball, 9-game homestand. Seattle beat Indiana last night. And after the game, Christy Sides said that Caitlin Clark needs to take more shots. Only took half the season for her to figure out that Caitlin Clark needs to be more assertive on the offensive end, that she is being unselfish to a detriment. And now, Sam, you start to wonder. Another double-double for Angel Reese last night. Is there a shot that somebody other than Caitlin Clark actually winds up winning Rookie of the Year honors? Reese is plus 400, Caitlin Clark minus 600.
I just don't think that there is, because, Jason, you've got to remember with these awards in sports, they're voted on by the media. They look for narratives, and the narrative is with Caitlin.
I don't know. There's one that's building for Angel Reese. She's a double-double machine. I think where their teams finish could have an impact on it, too. We're coming back with odds and ends next. All right, just about time to wrap things up on a Friday edition of the show. Before we do, though, this reminder, make sure to check out the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. It's available for you Monday through Friday, every day of the week, really. We don't put the weekend show up because the weekend show for our weekend affiliates is the best of everything from throughout the week. So if you have the podcast, you see everything that's going to be on the weekend show anyway. So go and check it out. Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, anywhere you get your podcasts. Go and subscribe today. It is fantastic. Without any further delay, time for some odds and ends. Sam Yarnell, odds and ends. Miles Russell trying to make the cut. The 15-year-old trying to make the cut at the Rocket Mortgage Classic Detroit Golf Club. He shot a 2-over opening round on Thursday. He had a double bogey on what was his back nine. Other than that, I mean, he looked the part of a PGA pro. I mean, I was blown away at his poise, his composure. He acted and performed like somebody who belonged here and knew he belonged here. I watched him in his post-round press conference where he's up there answering questions, hands on hips. Looking like he's done this 1,000 times. I can't say enough. You met 15 years old. Sam, what were you doing at 15 years old? Do I want to know?
I think I was a sophomore in high school. I was going to class every day. But no, it's a great story, Jason. It's truly impressive, and you wish the best for the kid. Hopefully, he makes the cut and makes some money this weekend.
No, he can't make.
Any money as an amateur.
He's 15 years old, but you have to wonder how long before we see him regularly on the PGA Tour. Like, do you even bother going to college if you're Miles Russell?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
Why go get $250,000 in debt when you're ready to be on the tour at 18?
Jason, $250,000 in debt? What are you talking about? The kid's going to get a full ride, and he's going to get a boatload of NIL money, and on top of all that, you get a college degree so that when golf stops working out for you, you can actually go get another job.
You can go work at a driving range. You can be Tin Cup. Go be a driving range pro. Listen, if it's me, again, I'm somebody who didn't go to college. You and I are different that way. I started in broadcasting when it'll be 30. I started just before my 17th birthday. I started in media. I was like Miles Russell of broadcasting. That was that kind of thing. No, I can't use that. Anyway, congratulations, regardless of whether he makes the cut this weekend. We'll have a recap on Monday if he does make the cut, because I just am fascinated when you get these sort of prodigies that are able to perform at this level and play with the best in the world. It blows my mind. I saw Camilo Villegas yesterday. out on the course at this. Yes, Spider-Man. The guy who used to lay down on the greens. That was pretty cool. Hadn't seen that dude in ages. Camilo Villegas out there.
Haven't heard that name in ages.
Yeah. Ricky Fowler playing pretty well out there as well. He's had a rough season on the tour. All right. Last but certainly not least, you might be wondering what is on your screen right now. I'm still trying to figure it all out. So here's this young woman who was at a game in Omaha at the College Baseball World Series. And apparently ESPN decided to show her and her friend licking an ice cream cone for 20 seconds. And now she has gone on this 5-minute diatribe about how terrible it is that ESPN showed her on camera for 20 seconds licking an ice cream cone and talking about it for 20 seconds. And she's saying all the terrible, nasty things that she's seeing on social media. It's all ESPN's fault. I just can't, Sam. I just can't.
That's how you know that it's actually invalid, when it's against ESPN and Jason Page can't get behind it. Yeah. So Jason was actually with me when I first watched this video, and 40 seconds into it, I closed it on my phone and said, 5 minutes? Yeah, that's enough of that. So couple of main takeaways here for this person that clearly has not existed on the internet, although definitely was an iPad kid. First of all, when you're out in public, you are liable for whatever you do. So if you are doing something that you don't want to be seen by many people, maybe you shouldn't do that in public, let alone in a stadium filled to the gills with 30,000 people there to watch a college baseball game, of which it looked like you had pretty good seats. That's neither here nor there. Second of all, I would say there are a couple of other takeaways. Number two, the internet sucks. This is not breaking news.
People suck. I agree.
Really, like, if you're just finding this out in 2024, I really want to live in whatever world you were living up until now, because the internet has sucked for a long time. Like, and that's part of what makes it so great, is that it sucks so much.
Yeah.
The third thing, there was a comparison in there to a popular meme going around, and in there she says, no disrespect, whatever, with relation to comments and stuff. Listen, this is a fundamental thing for people to know. If you say no disrespect about something in an argument where you're talking about how you were disrespected, it doesn't add up.
Yeah. Buyer beware, man. You go to a baseball game, you're going to wind up on camera. We'll see you next week.